Hello and welcome to this video which gives support on how to answer the kind of questions that come up in the PISA tests. Okay, this video will look at a set of questions on the resource pack Poppies. Okay, and basically what skills and knowledge do you need with this resources? Well, it'll look at large numbers, okay, so interpret them and put them into words, understand place value, okay, to the millions, calculate with large numbers and estimate using large numbers. We'll also look at measurements, okay, including the recall of conversion facts. So 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams. Um, Basically looking at time as well and calculating with time, rounding according to the context of the question, estimation again, and to make assumptions. Okay, so those important skills that are handy in everyday life. Okay, with every resource, okay, you'll be asked to read the text. Okay, so this is how they start the resource. Read the text about blood-swept lands and seas of red. Now, it's important to read it carefully, okay, and take your time. Don't go straight to the questions and then go back to the task because it might confuse you and it might stress you out. So read the text just to get the gist of what's being said, and then you can start the questions and you'll most likely know then where to go to answer the questions. Okay, so the text here: blood-swept lands and seas of red. So the major art installation, Blood-Swept Lands and Seas of Red at the Tower of London, marked 100 years since the first full day of Britain's involvement in the First World War. Okay, no numbers there, so we don't need to highlight anything so far. Created by ceramic artist Paul Cummins, which setting by stage designer Tom Piper. That number there, ceramic poppies, filled the tower's famous moat over the summer of 2014. Okay, right, so it is a maths based question, so I'm going to highlight that number there. I'm not saying the number because you'll see shortly why. Each poppy represented a British military fatality during the war. Okay, so each poppy represented a person. The poppies encircled the iconic landmark, creating not only a spectacular display visible from all around the tower, but also a location for personal reflection. The scale of the installation reflects the magnitude of such an important centenary, creating a powerful visual commemoration. Okay, so quite a lot of reading there. We've highlighted one number out of it. Okay, so don't worry if you don't understand a few words or anything, just so you get the gist of it. Okay, and then if we go on, then they list a few important facts. So the Times reported on Friday, 17th of October 2014, that for each poppy sold, £9 out of £25 went to charity. The money was shared equally amongst 6 service charities. 19 tons of steel was used to make the rods supporting poppies. 5 million individual parts were used to make all of the poppies. The total land covered was 16 acres of grass. The volunteers could plant approximately 15,000 poppies a day. It took volunteers 2 minutes to plant each poppy. So all of this basically is very important. Okay, there's a lot of facts there using numbers, so we'll most probably have to use them. So on to the first question. In the text, it is stated that Paul Cummins created poppies to represent the number of British military fatalities during the First World War. How many poppies were sold? So there's 4 options for you there. So just looking back and remember what I highlighted in the text was that number there. So how do you say that in words? Okay, so with that number, 888,246, there's a comma in the middle. What I would do is just look at what comes before the comma. You have 888. How do you say the number 888? Well, 888. Okay, which one of these starts off with 888? This is 88 million. So we can't go for that option. 88,000, no. 888,000, that's the one. Okay, this goes on to 8 million then, which needs 6 numbers after the first number. Okay, so our option, no, our answer is C. 888,246. 246 is there. So C is our correct answer. Okay, so there, just making sure that you can understand what numbers are in words. Question 2. In the text, it is stated that the number of poppies made was 888,246. Okay, comma there. What place value does the underlined 8 in that stand for? So what is this 8? So remember, this 6 is your units. These are your tens, the 4. Okay. 2 is your hundreds. 8 is your thousands. And then the next one, 10 thousands. Okay. So we want 10 thousands. So if I was to write this with zeros listing, what is that number? It's 80,000. So B is our correct answer here. Okay, so they're now checking that you know what your place value is. On to question 3. The monies raised by selling all of the poppies was divided equally between charities. Okay, the money raised by selling all of the poppies was divided equally between charities. How much did each charity receive? Right, so we need to know here how much the charities, how much did it cost for charities, or how much went to charities, okay, and how much did each charity receive. We don't know here how, it doesn't say how many charities there are, so we need to look back and see how many they got. So in the list here, for each poppy sold, 9 out of £25 went to charity. So we know each charity had £9. Okay, the money was shared equally among 6 service charities. How many charities were there? There were 6. So we know that there's 888,246 poppies has been sold. They were sold for £25, but £9 went to the charity. So we're going to times that by 9. Okay, you can use a calculator. So 888,246 times by 9. You might have a calculator option on the interactive resources, or you can use your own. That gives the number £7,994,214. Okay, so obviously after seeing that, don't jump and think, oh, B is my correct answer. That's how much money were given to charities. Okay, so given to charities. What we want now is to know how much did each charity receive. So that's how much money that was going to charity. We're going to divide it by how many charities we had. We had 6 charities, so divide by 6 and you get the answer 1,332,369. And hopefully that's an option with us. Yes. So the correct answer is A. Okay, so that's how much money each charity received. So working with large numbers there. Question 4. Use the information in the text to estimate the number of parts for each poppy. So, looking at the bullet point again, we've used the first one, we've used the second one. 90 tons of steel was used to make the rods supporting the poppies. That's not relevant to what we're doing. 5 million individual parts were used to make all of the poppies. So 5 million individual parts were used. So we need that information there. So we know 5 million individual parts were used. So 5 million individual parts were used. We want to know how much was each poppy. So we can divide that by 888,246. That'll give us how much is used on one individual poppy. So 5 million divided by 888,246. We get the answer 5.6290771226. So you can't get 5.6290771226 poppies. So if we were to round that, if we round it to 5, well, not enough parts would be used, and it won't create a whole poppy. So we have to round that to 6. Okay, so 6 parts are needed for one poppy. Okay, so the 5 parts wouldn't complete the one poppy, 6 would. Okay, so 6 parts there. Okay, question 5. How many grams of steel are needed to support each poppy? Note that 1 ton is 1,000 kilograms. So we know that 1 ton is 1,000 kilograms. So looking at the information again, we've used them. 90 tons of steel was used to make the rod supporting the poppies. So that's the important information we need. 90 tons of steel was used. So 90 tons. We want to know now, they've given us the fact that it's 1 ton is 1,000 kilograms, so we're going to need that. And if we look at our possible answers, they're all in grams. So we're going to need to convert the 90 tons into grams. So first of all, what is 90 tons in kilograms? What have we done to 1 to 90? We've times it by 90. So we're going to do the same to the 1,000. So it's 90,000 kilograms. That's how much steel was needed. Now we need that in grams. So in 1 kilogram, you need to remember that there's 1,000 grams, and we have 90,000 kilograms. So what have we done to the 1 to go to 90,000? We've times by 90,000. So we're going to do the same to this side. So what is 90,000 times by 1,000? 90,000 times it by 1,000 again, we get 90 million grams. Okay, so 90 million grams of steel was used to make the total amount of poppies. We want to work out one poppy, so we have 90,000, not 90,000, 90 million, sorry, 90 million divided by how many poppies did we have? And if we divide them, we get the answer 101.3323. So which one of those answers can we use? Well, we'll round it to 101 grams, so our answer is B. Okay, 101 gram of steel is used for each poppy. On to question 6. The text gives a rounded number of individual poppy parts used to make all of the poppies. What is the range of possible values for the actual number of poppy parts created? Give your answer in the form of an inequality. So we know that there was 888,246 poppies. Individual parts now. So we'll go back to our list and look at this one. 5 million individual parts were used to make all of the poppies. So 5 million. So 5 million rewrite like that. Okay, so that is a rounded number. Okay, that that number is given to the closest million. Okay, so this is million. So a million is that number there. So if we divide that by 2, we get 500,000. We can get our rounded number. So there's our lowest number it and our highest number, and this rounds to 5 million. So they wanted it as an inequality. So our correct part number, we'll call it x, is in between our two numbers. Okay, it can be anything in between what we need. So what is the least value we can get that rounds up to 5 million? Well, because we've worked this out, our 500,000, we can get that by just taking away 5 million, take away 500,000. If we take 500,000 away from 5 million, we get the least value we have. So 4,500,000. So that's our least value there. Our greatest value then, we add it on. So 5 million, add 500,000, and we get 5,500,000. So those are what is the range of possible values for the actual number of poppy parts created. So the poppy parts created is our x, so it's got to be in between those numbers there. Anything outside of this range, it would round to a different number. Anything in between them round to the 5 million. This would round up to 6 million, but because we need the possible values, it's okay to use it like that. But what we need to put down is that you make sure that it has an inequality. Okay. Question 7 then, the last question. Using the figures from the test, estimate how many poppy volunteers are needed to plant the poppies each day. Okay, so looking at the facts we haven't used, or possibly we need the other ones. So anything based on volunteers. The volunteers could plant approximately 15,000 poppies a day. It took volunteers 2 minutes to plant each poppy. So we need that information there. So 15,000 poppies a day would be planted. So 15,000 poppies a day. It took volunteers 2 minutes to plant each poppy. So if we times that by 2 minutes, what we get is 30,000 minutes each day. Okay, 30,000 minutes each day. I'm going to change that into hours divided by 60 because there's 60 minutes in a hour. So 300 minutes divided by 60, we get 500 hours. So 500 hours a day it would take. So we need to work out how many people we have. So here now, because we have to estimate how many volunteers are needed, we're going to assume, okay, that the workers we had worked for 7 hours a day. Okay, so assume workers worked for 7 hours a day. Okay, so if we divide 500 by 7 hours, what we get is 71.42857 workers. So we approximately need 70 volunteers. Okay, so there now we estimate how many we need. Okay, so approximately we need 70 volunteers if they were to work 7 hours a day. Okay, so important points there. So carefully extract key numbers from the text, okay, and key information. Break multi-step problems down. Don't try to do everything at once. Use correct units, okay, especially when converting between tons, kilograms, and grams. Look out for rounding clues. Okay, so it was 5 million. Likely means that it's estimated. Do workings out. Don't try and do it all in your head. Okay, and to end then, okay, the questions discussed in this video are just some that appear in a collection of interactive PISA type questions that are available through Hub. Okay, so do go to the Hub website and have a go at some of the other questions that are unavailable. There's a lot of questions there based on different themes. You can reach these resources simply by scanning the QR code below with your phone or type the long address at the bottom of the screen into your browser. Okay, good luck and thank you very much for listening. I hope it's been beneficial. Thank you. Ta-ra.